waves of elites come out, and my dipshit teammates, they locked me up inside of the elevator with them, and as soon as we come up, there's a million specials piling up on the door, and they're waiting to fuck us. You barely ever get a chance to breathe because there's always another option, another enemy coming that could come out of anywhere. What is going on, guys? Today we're talking about Warhammer 40k. This time I'm checking out Darktide. Actually my first time hopping into this series, and I just want to talk about how much I really enjoyed this. And it's 2023. I know this game has been out for a while, but it's free on Game Pass now, and I really think you guys should check it out, although I do have a couple things that are not so positive at the end to talk about. That being said, let's hop right into it. So the first thing you'll do in the game is character creation. Obviously you get to make a guy or a girl. You get to make up a backstory with their homeworld, their life story. You can customize skin color, hair color, marks, all of that stuff, right? But the game really starts to get interesting when you look at the classes. Now they're pretty standard. We have the Ogren, which is the tank class, specializing in running people over, smashing them and taking all the aggro. And then there's a melee class, the Zealot, who focuses on survivability, being able to get up close and deal a ton of damage with their weapons, as well as they get grenades, and they can still use ranged weapons well. However, if you're interested in ranged weapons, the Veteran is where you're going to want to look, with huge boosts to the gun damage, accuracy. It's going to be way easier to pick off enemies before they can harm you or your team. And then the last class is the Berserker. This is kind of like the mage class, and that's the one I ended up going with. As a Berserker, you can be a support player with a chain lightning, Emperor Palpatine type of build, or you could do the shards, which I thought was the best play style and I found really overpowered. So all the classes are really good. They'll have a separate coherency, which is like a team-based ability, a bumper or just action cooldown ability, a skill, and then weapons even that are specific to their class, meaning that they're all good. They're all different, although I do have a little bias. I think the Ogren, especially on higher difficulties, is maybe the best because you need a tank, and there's nothing else that's really, you know, on that level. All right, so you make your class, you hop in, and you're stuck in jail, and that's it, and you're dead. And GG, thanks for playing, thank you guys for watching, we'll be seeing. Okay, obviously the plot happens, you break out, and then you'll get into some combat eventually. Now there is a tutorial in the game and it does a pretty good job, but I want to talk to you about some of the key combat things that are going on. Now movement is one of them. You learn how to dodge and slide, which is used to evade melee and ranged attacks respectively. It is worth noting to be careful. If you spam them, it does hurt their effectiveness. There are certain skills that actually help with this. Let's look at the health bars. So this game, you have two. You have toughness, which is kind of like your shield. You can buff it with skills. You can regain it throughout the game with melee kills. But your health, the lower bar, is pretty much only going to get restored from med stations or med packs. Now you'll notice that throughout the game, if you're going down, and I believe if you take chunks like bursts of damage, your health bar will go purple, which means that it's not restorable unless you go to a med station, one of the big ones, not a med pack. That does not count. So I already touched on it a little bit, but weapons, you have a melee weapon and you get a ranged weapon. Ranged weapons usually are limited ammo that you can find throughout the match. Melee weapons, you usually have infinite ammo, and obviously, like I said, each class is better with one or the other. All right, so you understand the combat now, which I think is amazing. I think it's really good combat. It's really fun. Now you'll get yourself into the hub area, and the game only gets bigger and better from here. So over time, usually every 3 levels, I feel like, you unlock a new feature in the hub world. So you can go to the shop and you can find a known inventory, which will have anything from whites to blues, as far as I could tell. It will have some curios in it maybe. Or you can go to the almost build it yourself type of area where you spend money and you will get a white rarity with random attributes on it, and then you can upgrade it, which is where we're going to go next, to mod it. Now it's got kind of a pretty regular color scheme to it. You go from white with a regular gun to green, you get a perk, blue you get a blessing, purple you would get another perk, and orange you get another blessing. There are different levels to the perks and blessings, 1 through 4, each worth a little bit more, but they're basically the same thing with just a higher number attached to it. So it'll go from like 5% to 10% to 15 and so on. That being said, upgrading your gun is not going to ever affect the actual stats. So you'll see there's a damage percent number on it, there's cleaving on some of them, there's accuracy, I believe, there's stability, and those stats, the core stats of your gun, will not change. You just get added perks and blessings. It's also worth noting that whatever your gun is, you can modify it twice at this mod shop. So your best guns are still going to be the highest level guns that you find a purple and you're like, oh my god, this is a god roll. But because you can mod all of them, you can make a white gun really, really good. As someone who's played Borderlands and Destiny and knows what it's like to want to get the perfect piece of gear, and for it to really matter sometimes, like I can remember playing Borderlands, and if you got a Herald and it wasn't double penetrated, it wasn't good. If you are playing Destiny and you got a shotgun and it didn't have the extra range attachments on it, it wasn't good enough. You needed to get a new one. They fix that in this game by letting you fix your gun, by letting you get a really good gun and modify it, or just make your own. Just go grind for another one that's white, and then you can build it up from there. That being said, the next feature is kind of a small one. It's the challenges. As far as I know, they update weekly. You can re-roll them before you finish them if you don't think you're going to make it. Otherwise, they just give you certain credits that are spendable there, and those give you purple items. So these are some of the best items in the games you can get with the challenge tab that you don't unlock till pretty late. I think that's one of the ones I just got. All right, let's head back into the character sheet for just a second and take a look at the skill tree. I know I've said it a couple times now, but this is another great part of the game. The amount of branching paths you have, each skill, each node has a humongous impact on gameplay. I mean, these small toughness boosts you feel. Unlocking the ability to sprint and reduce my peril at the same time was huge. And these are just basic nodes. So on top of the little nodes, there's still 3 different skills, 3 different abilities, and 3 different coherences, and 3 capstones for each class, all 4 of them. Meaning there's almost an endless way, even if you want to use the same skill as somebody else. I played with a lot of people that were using the shards as me, but you could still build it to have a different capstone, or to use a different ability, or to use be more of a supportive build. You could do crit, or you could do soulfire, or you could do peril regen. There was different ways to make even the same build be different than the next guy, and that's really cool to me. It's really important for it to be like, yeah, I could look up a guide, but I could also do it myself, and that was really nice. What makes this so much better, in my opinion, that it would be detrimental to not have it, honestly, but it's a hands down must need in other games, is the ability to change your skills just one at a time or all at once whenever you want with all of the loadouts. It should just be standard in games at this point, because the ability to be flexible, for me to change in one instance and say, I don't want to use this skill anymore, let's use a different one. I want to use a different node, I want a different capstone, and I can just do it. There's no repercussions, there's no reasons why I couldn't. So the last thing while we're in the character screen I want to talk about is curios, which are kind of like an amulet or a ring or a necklace, and it really just gives you kind of small buffs. In my case, I'm running 2 for toughness just because I thought I was dying a whole lot. So they're not super impactful, but having them is nice and important. All right, so we're done with everything else. Let's actually get into a mission. Let's talk about starting a mission. There's difficulties, 5 of them, and honestly, at level 8 and 9, I was playing on the lowest difficulty, and then I started bumping it up, and I thought the game was really easy. And then I got to tier 3, and I was getting fucked. There's no way around it. With each difficulty, you have less downs. You have harder enemies, obviously, with more health. They do more damage, and more specials or elite spawn. So this is actually a perfect time now to talk about specials or elites, which are anything from snipers, hounds, bursters, bulwarks. There's so many. In missions, you can be in an area where they can throw mutants and ragers and exploders in like really tight areas, and that can be really tense. But they can also do long corridors with snipers, and you get flanked by trappers and stuff, and the dogs. So their ability to make you feel stressed, you barely ever get a chance to breathe because there's always another option, another enemy coming that could come out of anywhere. Unfortunately, for missions, that's kind of where the brilliance ends, because the mission design is actually my biggest flaw with the game. And I think the layout is fine. Some of the objectives are interesting. Doing the scanner one time is cool. Working as a team to grab all of the, I don't know if they're batteries or whatever, to power or something. That's cool and it's fun to do. The actual design of each room, each corridor, there's so many just hallways of green and gray, and it's fucking terrible, to be honest. The enemies funnel out of one doorway, and I don't have a problem with anything specific. Like if it was just corridors, if it was in the elevators and then enemies in a doorway, it would be fine. But it's all of them on every mission, which makes them lead to being more repetitive than they actually are. They're not bad missions, but when the scenery looks the same and you get stuck, like your objective is always to go to an elevator and you'll go down one in every mission, it kind of feels like you're doing the same thing more than you've been. I think that the combat actually does such a good job of covering this up in a way, just because you're always swinging your sword, you're always doing something, throwing a grenade, resing somebody, that you're so occupied that you don't have all the time to look at everything around you. But when you really do, when you really start to play the game a lot, around level 20 actually for me, I'm doing this Malice mission, like a 3-star mission, but with Maelstrom on it, so it's got way increased special spawns, and I'm really enjoying it. There's so much difficulty, there's stress from everywhere as waves of elites come out, and my dipshit teammates, they lock me up inside of the elevator with them, and as soon as we come up, there's a million specials piling up on the door, and they're waiting to fuck us, and then we clear it, and I realize I've already done this objective 5 times. Yes, it's more fun on the harder difficulties. Yes, it's more challenging. And I really enjoy doing it with different people and with a different build. But the area is the same. I've already done it. There's not that many different missions, and they still all look the same. Eventually, you just get caught up in the idea that it's no different than the last. So we say all of that to end up here. I'm glad I played this game. As a Payday fan, all I want is to grind and get cooler weapons and skills and skins. As a Borderlands fan, I love the idea of loot. I love random drops. I love classes. Somebody that's played Destiny 1, Destiny 2, both of the Divisions. This is a great game and exactly what I would want in a game. But the actual environment that you play in holds the game back. And while I'm inclined to start a new class, I really want to try the Ogryn. The idea of running through the same sewers, watching the same cutscenes, it actually is a huge turnoff. It does not sound appealing to me at all. So I will say, if you haven't tried this out before, you absolutely should. Especially now, it's on Gamepass. I know this game has been out for a while, I've heard there's patches to it, but this is my first time playing it, and it's free on Game Pass now. I was very happy with it, just like I think you'll be happy if you subscribe to me for free on YouTube. I'm always uploading content, trying to upload 2 to 4 times a week right now. Payday has been what we're doing strongest right now, but I play other games. I look to talk to you guys in the comments. So anyway, so I would say if you have friends though, this game would be way more fun. But even if you don't, as somebody who loves looter shooters, the combat was amazing in this game. I would still recommend this to somebody if you like the games I like that I've been talking about. So I'm gonna give it a rating today, which I hate to say, it's a 7. For me, it's a 7. I wanted to give it an 8. I want to give it higher even more. I think they could do it, but the repetition really does get to me at some point, and that's why I've pushed it down. Anyways, guys, I appreciate everyone who watches. As always, please leave a comment. I always reply as fast as I can, and go ahead and leave a like or dislike. It really does help me know whether or not you guys want to see more of this game, more of this style. And yeah, that's all, guys. We'll be seeing you. Goodbye. Thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate it. Go watch another video in a second. I'm sure you'll like it. Okay, thanks. Bye.